morning and welcome to this week's breakfast interview with Brendan Yell, CEO of Shopfree Australia. Brendan's been with Shopfree since its founding in 1999. Prior to that, he was with Optus, where he pioneered new products and services and was instrumental in some of the most innovative uses of technology at the time. Brendan left to start Shopfree, coming up with the idea on the back of a radio station promotion that he'd seen in Melbourne. I'll hand it over to Brendan to talk a little bit more about how he founded Shopfree and how the idea came up for it.
Cool, thanks very much. Well, yeah, we started Shopfree in 1999. At the time, I'd been looking around for a few opportunities online. I suppose I was looking for an idea that, you know, what's something that we could do that currently is very popular offline, but we can make it even better by moving it online. And by chance, I was down at a Melbourne radio station, and they had all these boxes of chips there. And I think I must have been a bit hungry at the time, and I thought, I said to one of the guys, what are those chips there for? And he said, we're getting paid $25,000 to give those away. And I said, oh, okay, is that on air? And he said, no, just with our four-wheel drives when we're out and about town. And he said, every time we're driving around, we give out all these samples, but, we get a lot of sample requests from different companies, and quite often we have to say no. And at that time I started thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. And I did a bit of research into product sampling and found it was one of the most common forms of marketing and one of the most popular forms of marketing. We found out that, in fact, people are about 4 times more likely to buy a product if they've actually been given a free sample first. And in fact, Coca-Cola, who you could probably say invented modern advertising and marketing, they actually launched Coca-Cola through sampling in drugstores in America. So we thought, this could be pretty good. We also realised that, if we actually give away samples online, we can send them out to only the people that actually request them. I'm sure you've been to a train station where people have given you out a sample, and what happens, you walk down the street and there's a garbage bin overflowed, full of your samples. So, sometimes that's not the best brand image to portray, is, people giving away samples that aren't wanted. The other thing is not targeted. I mean, you could be giving away shampoo to a bald guy, so you don't really know where the samples are going or what they're doing. It might be a nice way to get the product out there, but you don't really find out anything about the consumers that actually want your sample. What we did is, by moving this online, we could actually find out a bit more about the consumer. We could find out where they live, we could find out their age, we could even ask them some questions such as, have you ever tried this product before? We could even ask them other things like, would you like to receive future communications from Nestle about promotions or competitions that we're running in the future? And we found out that people were actually fairly prepared to give away some of their personal information and their opinions in return for a free sample.
That's terrific. I guess that's one of the objections maybe some advertisers have about delivering samples online, though, is all the work that's required to manage that consumer once you have information about them. How is that information used by Shopfree? Do you send out newsletters, and how do you share that with the advertiser, and do you do any consulting with the advertiser on how to use that information after they've captured it?
Well, quite often what happens is we get people at the time they're ordering the free sample we ask them, do they want to receive any future communications from the company? With privacy laws, when people make an order, that company only has permission to communicate with them for the delivery of that sample. However, if they opt into future communications, our advertisers will use that in a variety of ways. Sometimes they might follow it up with an online newsletter or an email newsletter. Sometimes they might follow it up with other future samples or things like recipe cards or those sort of things in the post. What we're finding is, yes, there is some cost to managing that database, but the database of people is a very valuable database. It's actually a group of people that have said, hey, I want to receive information from this company about their products. So we think that group of people is a fairly concentrated group of consumers, and one that should be seen as very valuable to advertisers.
From an R&D perspective.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There are a number of things that our advertisers do. They could, for example, try new products with this group of people when they know that they're open to receiving new offers and happy to give their opinions out. So perhaps if you wanted to test market a product to a group of, let's say, 5,000 consumers, it would be a nice way to push out a test product to these consumers and then follow them up with some, incentivise them to give their feedback about the product that they're trying out.
What are the limitations with the product then? Could you go from anything from a test drive for an automobile, say, to a shampoo sample, as you were mentioning before? Or
Yeah, both of those things work fine. Obviously, sometimes products aren't available in sample sizes, so then that makes it a bit hard to do the sampling. Also, sometimes the product, by either its weight or its size, may not be just suitable to be sending out in the post. I remember once we were approached by Arnott's, who wanted to sample some Tim Tams, and really in Australia with our climate, it wasn't really appropriate to send out Tim Tams in the post. Just the idea of someone, getting some biscuits and some chocolate with it all melted all over the fingers wasn't a very good brand image, we didn't think. So for them, probably an online coupon or that sort of thing might work better in that case. So not all samples do work online, but things like, obviously test drives, shampoo samples, which can come in sachets, do work very well.
what's your competitive set then? There are a couple of new players and there are a couple of older players that have either stagnated a little or maybe dropped off. And just a few of the competitors that I looked up when I was researching this interview with you were AdSelect, Free Stuff and iFree. How do you exist within that competitive set? You guys are obviously the market leader, but how do you compete against them?
Yeah, we don't find them as competitors so much. In fact, I wish there were actually more competitors in the space to actually grow it. We're still having, our biggest competition at the moment is offline sampling. There's so much sampling done in this country through, letterbox drops and, outdoor placements where there are people standing at shopping malls or train stations giving away samples. Our biggest competitor is actually to try and bring some of that massive industry online. So we'd actually like some more competitors in the online space, if you like, to help grow that market. In the US, online sampling is a lot more popular than it is in this country, and that's part of the reason for our move over to America, is to capitalise on that. But yeah, we need to. We probably haven't even scratched the surface with the amount of sampling that's done offline as compared to what we've brought online so far.
Within the FMCG category, there are a great number of companies that are sampling, and Procter & Gamble may be the most prolific of those companies. How do you compete with perhaps sites such as a Yahoo or a 9MSN or some of the other portals where Procter & Gamble are trying to generate traffic? Would you consider them in your competitive set?
Yeah, they are in our competitive set, and there's no doubt that they're actually helping us grow the market as well. What we have, though, is when people come to ShopFree, they're coming to actually try a product. They're coming to respond to offers. The most popular time for people to actually surf on ShopFree is about between 4 and 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. So people are thinking, they're at work, they're thinking, I've got some time to kill, what will I do? I'll go and see what's on ShopFree, see what offers are there. Often when people are on 9MSN or Yahoo, while there may be more people there, they're often there for a very specific purpose. They're there to read their email, they're there to maybe to do their banking, they might be there to pay bills, and people tend to these days do less surfing. We find that people have more of a smash and grab approach to the internet. They get on, they do what they want, and then they go off. So we know that when people actually arrive at ShopFree, that's actually what they're there to do. They're actually there to respond to offers. So we have a very good conversion rate. The average person that hits the ShopFree website orders around one thing. So we know that we have a very good response rate, where you find with other sites that have more traffic, their response rate, because they're there to do other things, will actually be lower.